Today I was going to look at the Back to Eden garden and the winter squash that's growing on it and how well they're doing on these wood chips. This area, which is a fairly large area, it's 40 by 60 feet, used to be an in-ground garden, and years ago I converted to raised beds and put down the wood chips over what used to be the raised bed garden and turned it into Back to Eden. When this was an in-ground garden, it always washed every spring when we got rains, and a lot of the topsoil washed off and went down the watershed, which all of this is below it. It's all sloping down. So the wood chips stopped all that, and the raised beds, of course, don't have a problem with washout. And then I built a arbor between the raised beds, which you can see has some pole beans growing on them right now. But today's interest was these winter squash. These are butternut squash on this end, and the middle was a red curry, and on the far end was is a cushaw. The red curry, however, is a very bad boy and has just gone everywhere. It is grown over. It was in the middle. It has grown over the squash on this end, and has grown over the squash on that end. So the butternuts here are being taken over by the red curry, and the cushaw on the other end has red curry, and there's squash all through here. I can show you a couple of them down here. There's one small butternut there. There's two butternuts forming there. Here's a red curry down here, and there's another red curry back in there. And I counted the other day, there are 12 red curries. There are 10 butternuts in here. They're a long ways from being mature and ripening, but they're growing rapidly, and I don't think it'll be a problem them being ready before frost hits, which is mid-October generally. This, you can see what I was saying about the red curry taking over. There's a butternut growing there, and there's a red curry growing adjacent to it, and they're two totally different winter squash, but the red curry just loves to spread. Another red curry down in there. Here are some of the blooms that the bees have been busily working, trying to make sure all of our squash get pollinated. And these plants are doing exceptionally well on these wood chips. They love the moisture. The wood chips are basically a sponge, and they hold all the rain moisture and keep it here at ground level for these squash to grow on. So the Back to Eden garden has been very successful for growing winter squash. And as you can see, these are taking over and heading for the fence over here, which I'll have them turned before they get there so they don't climb up the fence, because last year they got on the fence and climbed it, and then the cushaw squash, which weigh 15 to 20 pounds, were too heavy for the squash to hold up. So we're going to prevent that this year. Here's a young cushaw. That one just started forming yesterday, and there's some bigger ones down underneath it here. I can find one. There's a cushaw there. And if you can imagine, that squash will get to be 15 to 20 pounds. Here's one that's about half grown. Probably weighs 7 pounds at the present. So they've got some growing to do yet. But all in all, just wanted to do a quick tour of the Back to Eden gardens and show you the success that we've had with them. You can see the cushaw squash here. They have spotted leaves, and then you can see growing over the cushaw are the red curries, which have solid green leaves. So you can tell easily how they are taking over one another and growing this entire area. So that's just a quick tour of the Back to Eden garden with the winter squash growing, and these will continue growing here till frost takes them out in mid-October, and by that time we will have harvested all of the squash, and I'll do an update video come fall when I pick the squash and show the progress that they have made and how many we harvested from this small bed. As I said, there's 4 plants here. There's one cushaw, and there's one red curry, and there's 2 Walton butternuts on the end. And so they were planted at 3 feet apart, but they obviously have taken over all that open space and filled it in. So we have total ground cover here, and it will grow even more to fill in more area before it's completed the growing season. So that's the conclusion of the back Eden garden, and I'll provide an update this fall when we start harvesting. Thanks for watching.